Hello, family. Enjoy this great and beautiful moment with Afri Stories. Remember to hit the like button, subscribe, and comment. It means the world to us. Also, share this video with your friends and loved ones, and don't miss future videos from us. Sit back and relax as we dive into the story. Nia tapped her pen against the wooden dining table, her mind drifting from the half-finished grocery list to the growing tension in the apartment. The white noise of the dishwasher filled the silence, and she closed her eyes, trying to recall the last time she and Jordan had laughed together. Only a few months ago, they were inseparable, best friends who shared inside jokes, planned luxurious getaways, and posted photos that made their friends sigh with envy. Now, the emotional gap between them felt wider than any ocean. Jordan was in the living room, pacing back and forth while on a call with a client. As a real estate agent, he was known for his silver tongue and effortless charm. He could make people believe in opportunities hidden in cramped studios or neglected suburban bungalows. Nia used to admire how he could brighten any conversation, but lately he seemed distant even when he was right beside her. She couldn't pinpoint when it all began. Perhaps the first time he brushed off her question about where he'd been, but the strain felt increasingly suffocating. When he finally hung up, he appeared at the kitchen doorway, phone still in hand. "Hey, got a late showing tonight," he said, avoiding eye contact. "Might be back after 10. His voice was casual, but he didn't look at her long enough to gauge her reaction. Nia offered a tight smile, pushing down the feeling of unease that churned in her stomach. "Sure," she replied softly, hoping her tone sounded supportive. Inside, her intuition whispered that something was off. She had tried to silence these doubts for weeks, refusing to let suspicion unravel their picture-perfect life. After all, she was head nurse at a top-tier hospital, someone who balanced life-and-death decisions daily without flinching. Handling a little marital hiccup should be easy by comparison. Jordan grabbed his car keys. "Don't wait up," he added before slipping out the door. The moment he was gone, Nia exhaled a breath she didn't realize she'd been holding. She glanced at the fridge, covered in photos of their travels. Cancun beaches, New York skylines, romantic dinners in Paris. Each snapshot was a time capsule of happy moments. Yet those joyful memories only amplified her current sense of loss. Later that evening, she tried distracting herself by folding laundry in the bedroom. Hospital scrubs, Jordan's crisp dress shirts, casual weekend hoodies, all found their place in neat piles. As she stacked Jordan's shirts, a small piece of paper fluttered to the floor. She bent down to pick it up, her pulse quickening when she realized it was a hotel receipt. The date caught her eye: last weekend. Jordan had told her he'd gone to Miami for a real estate conference. The hotel, however, was right in their city, not even 30 minutes away. The next line spelled out a suite number, along with a minibar purchase and room service charges. Nia's hand trembled. Was this a mistake? Could Jordan have done business at that hotel? But the details made no sense. A single night stay, the day he was allegedly away. Her mind raced through possibilities, each more heartbreaking than the last. A conference in Miami? Or a rendezvous at a local hotel? She sank onto the edge of the bed, replaying every suspicious moment. The late-night showings, the secretive texts, the coolness in his kisses, the way he guarded his phone like it held top-secret intel. She had seen the name Tasha flash on his screen once. When she'd asked, he claimed it was just a client. Now, her stomach twisted at the memory. Despite the fear gnawing at her, Nia's logical side demanded proof. She scolded herself for jumping to conclusions. Maybe it really was work-related. Yet the emotional side of her, the part that had brushed off a dozen red flags, could no longer stay silent. She carefully tucked the receipt back into Jordan's shirt pocket, deciding not to confront him immediately. Instead, she'd watch. She'd wait. In the hospital, she'd learned that a misdiagnosis could be more harmful than the ailment itself. Rushing to accuse him without hard evidence might destroy any chance of uncovering the full truth. Still, she found no respite that night. Even her favorite ritual, making chamomile tea and reading medical journals, did nothing to quell the hammering in her chest. She imagined confronting Jordan, demanding to know whose name was on that hotel booking with him. Yet part of her still clung to hope. Their marriage wasn't perfect, but it was worth saving, wasn't it? Sleep came in fitful waves. She dreamed of empty hospital corridors, her footsteps echoing as she searched for something elusive. Doors slammed shut in front of her. Jordan's voice called out from the end of the hallway, and when she turned to find him, all she saw was a crumpled hotel receipt. By morning, she forced herself to look presentable for work. As head nurse, she had to remain calm under any circumstance. Patience depended on her competence. She pinned her hair neatly, straightened her scrubs, and walked into the hospital with her usual confident stride. Despite the war raging inside her, in the back of her mind, the question loomed. What if her suspicions were right? What if the life she'd carefully built with Jordan was built on secrets and lies? Her heart clenched at the possibility, but she had no choice but to keep it together. She had a job to do and patients to care for. Little did she know that her entire world would soon shift in ways she never... Tasha Winfield awoke to the gentle hum of her phone's alarm, blinking away the fuzziness of sleep. She stretched, momentarily forgetting the growing swell of her belly until she felt the telltale pressure that reminded her she was nearly 8 months pregnant. The father was a man who'd swept her off her feet with a dazzle she had only dreamed about in romantic comedies. Jordan. He was older, smooth-talking, and supportive whenever she worried about money or stability. He soothed her with promises of a bright future. She remembered how he once said, "I'll take care of everything. You and me will build a family that lasts forever." It hadn't started as a grand love affair. She'd met him during an apartment showing. She was considering moving to a better neighborhood before the baby arrived. He showed her a chic condo, and they hit it off instantly. He was funny, attentive, and confident, traits that made her heart flutter. One dinner date turned into late-night phone calls, and before long, she found herself lost in the whirlwind of his attention. He made her feel special, like she was the only woman in his life. She eased out of bed, balancing the weight of her belly carefully. She'd just finished her second trimester, and the tiny flutters of movement had evolved into forceful kicks. Mornings now consisted of checking in with her obstetrician's office, planning a healthy breakfast, and occasionally browsing baby name books. She wondered if the baby would have Jordan's brown eyes or her thick, curly hair. She pictured them as a happy little trio, living in a sunlit apartment with a nursery painted in soft pastels. Jordan's call came right on schedule. He liked to check on her each morning. She answered, smiling. "Morning," she greeted. "Morning, beautiful." Jordan replied in his smooth baritone. "How's my favorite mom to be?" She ran a hand over her belly. "We're good. Actually, I had a bit of heartburn last night, but I'm feeling better now." He chuckled softly. "I'll bring you something for that. Just name it, and I'll do my best to make it go away." Despite her happiness at hearing his voice, Tasha felt a twinge of unease when she recalled a question she'd posed to him a week ago. "Jordan," she began cautiously, "I know you said you were divorced, but you never really mentioned your ex-wife in detail. Are there any complications I should be aware of? I don't want any surprises." There was a slight pause on his end before he responded. "We finalized everything years ago. Trust me, there's nothing for you to worry about." His reassurance calmed her, although a small seed of doubt remained. He'd been vague about his past, insisting it was too painful to discuss. She convinced herself that maybe it was a sensitive topic. After all, he was building a new life with her now. That was what mattered, right? After their call, she settled onto the couch and scrolled through baby products on her phone. Moments like these, she felt secure. Jordan was attentive and generous. She had every reason to believe in their future. Yet, every now and then, she'd sense a flicker of something unsaid. He'd disappear for days on business trips, then reappear with expensive gifts to make up for his absence. Sometimes, he'd be reluctant to snap selfies with her, as though wanting to keep their relationship discreet. She told herself it was just his style. He preferred privacy. But part of her wondered if he was hiding something more. She was jolted from her thoughts by a sudden flutter in her stomach, stronger than the usual kicks. She placed a hand there, feeling the baby move energetically. The doctor had said it was a good sign, a healthy sign. She couldn't help smiling at the thought that soon she'd be holding a new life in her arms. Maybe that was why Jordan was so protective. He wanted everything to be perfect. Her phone buzzed again, this time with a text from Jordan. Booked you at a top-notch hospital for the delivery. I've got connections there. You'll be treated like a VIP. She beamed. Relief surged through her. With Jordan handling the logistics, she felt taken care of, cherished. She tapped back a quick reply. Thank you, babe. Love you. He responded with a heart emoji and typed, anything for you and our little one. Later that day, as Tasha paged through a baby name book, circling possibilities like Ava or Melanie, her best friend Simone dropped by. Simone knew Tasha had been seeing someone but hadn't met Jordan yet. Over iced tea, Simone eyed Tasha's baby bump and asked, So, when do I get to meet this mystery man? You talk about him like he's a dream come true. Tasha shrugged with a grin. He is. Just busy. He's a real estate hotshot, always traveling. But you'll meet him soon. Maybe after the baby's born. Simone raised an eyebrow. And you're sure he's not, taken? Tasha's cheeks flushed. He told me he's divorced. I trust him. He's been there for every doctor's appointment he could attend. That's got to count for something, right? Simone nodded, though her expression remained guarded. I'm happy for you, Tasha. Really, just be careful. Tasha squeezed her friend's hand, determined to cast away any negativity. Everything was lining up. Jordan's promises, the soon-to-be glamorous hospital stay, and the dream of a fresh start. She believed that once the baby arrived, all her minor doubts would be erased by the joy of their new family. What she couldn't see was a storm brewing behind Jordan's charming facade, a secret that would collide with her world in the most shocking way. Nia stood by the nurse's station, juggling a ringing phone, a stack of patient charts, and a cup of lukewarm coffee she'd forgotten to finish. Her day had started earlier than usual, courtesy of an unexpected call from the hospital's admin office. There was a shortage of senior staff in the maternity ward for the next few weeks. Could she step in to oversee the night shift? Normally, Nia might have hesitated. She'd taken a break from maternity rotations to focus on surgical ward management. But she needed any distraction to keep her mind off Jordan's suspicious behaviors. Thank you for helping out, Ms. Carter, said Dr. Miles, a soft-spoken obstetrician who was relieved to have her on board. I know it's been a while since you've done a maternity rotation, but your leadership will be invaluable to our team. Nia mustered a polite nod. She'd had years of experience in neonatal and maternity care before her promotion. I'm here to help, she replied. Let's make sure everything runs smoothly. Though she maintained a calm exterior, her thoughts buzzed with anxiety. The image of that hotel receipt kept flashing in her head. She hadn't confronted Jordan yet. She was waiting, hoping she might stumble upon more concrete evidence or, at the very least, a valid explanation. But each passing day ate away at her trust in him. As she ran through patient files, her eyes lingered on one name, Tasha Williams, 38 weeks pregnant. Something about it tugged at her memory. She recalled once checking Jordan's phone when it lit up with a call from Tasha. He quickly snatched it away, mumbling something about it being a new client. A chill ran through Nia. Could it be the same Tasha? She shook the thought away. It wasn't impossible that two people shared that name. Besides, the file indicated Ms. Williams was scheduled for a routine check-in, not an act of labor. Still, she couldn't ignore the knot forming in her stomach. She pressed a hand against her chest, inhaling deeply, reminding herself she couldn't jump to conclusions in every area of her life. If it really was the same Tasha, what would that imply? That Jordan's new client was pregnant? The thought felt so ludicrous, so far-fetched, that she dismissed it as coincidence. During her rounds, she made a point to check on Tasha Williams. The nurse on duty informed her the patient hadn't arrived yet. Probably a late appointment, Nia thought. She decided to move on to other tasks, reviewing supply requests, updating shift schedules, and double-checking that the birthing suites were fully stocked for any overnight emergencies. Time ticked by. Past midnight, her phone vibrated in the pocket of her scrubs. It was Jordan, texting her a simple, "Working late. Don't wait up." She stared at the screen, feeling anger and sorrow swell simultaneously. Did he think she wouldn't question his repeated late nights? She turned off the screen, without replying. Near 1 a.m., A nurse poked her head into the break room. "Nia, sorry to disturb, but we have an incoming patient in labor. Could you oversee room 7? The patient specifically asked for the best nurse on shift." Nia nodded, summoning her professional persona. "Of course." She headed down the corridor, passing by anxious families and the faint smell of antiseptic. The bright fluorescent lights hummed overhead. This was familiar territory, a place where her compassion and skill had saved countless mothers and newborns from complications. She exhaled, letting the tension from her personal life slip away momentarily. Here, her purpose was clear: ensure a safe delivery. She grabbed the patient chart from the front desk outside room 7. Her eyes widened when she read the name, Tasha Williams. The chart now had a bold, handwritten note: active labor, 38 weeks. The surge of dread returned. Could it be the same Tasha that haunted her suspicions? She brushed off the thought. Her duty was to help regardless. She pushed open the door, preparing to introduce herself with the usual soothing confidence. The moment she stepped inside, she froze. Jordan stood at the bedside, hands clasped nervously. Tasha, belly huge and face contorted in pain, let out a low moan as a contraction rippled through her. The room seemed to shrink in an instant, the tension almost tangible. 3 sets of eyes met. Tasha, blinking through her discomfort, registered confusion at Nia's abrupt stop. Jordan looked like he'd seen a ghost. His face drained of color so quickly that Nia wondered if he might faint. She felt a hollow numbness spread through her chest. "Jordan, what?" she began, but her voice caught in her throat. Her gaze flickered from him to Tasha. The pregnant woman was clutching the railing of the bed, her knuckles white. The pieces clicked together in Nia's mind with a force that nearly knocked the air from her lungs. Jordan's secret. "Tasha, the baby, the hotel receipt." Jordan cleared his throat, stumbling over words. "Nia, I can explain," he stammered, but the panic in his eyes spoke volumes. Nia inhaled sharply, setting aside the personal betrayal. There was a woman in labor who needed care. She flicked her gaze to the fetal monitor, noticing the rapid contractions. Whatever heartbreak she felt, she had to channel her professionalism. She walked to the bedside, calmly addressing Tasha as if it were any other patient. "Hi, I'm Nia, the head nurse. Let's focus on you and your baby right now. We can sort everything else out later." Her tone was steady, betraying none of the turmoil roiling inside her. Tasha's eyebrows knitted. Through her labored breaths, she managed to ask, "You two know each other?" Her voice was laced with confusion and fear. Nia pressed her lips together. "Yes," she said simply, placing a comforting hand on Tasha's shoulder. "But right now, all that matters is delivering your baby safely." Jordan hovered near the edge of the bed, looking desperate to speak. But Nia shot him a warning glance that said, as clear as words, "Not now." Lightning cracked outside the window, echoing the storm gathering in all their lives. Nia's world had turned upside down, yet she leaned into her training, pushing her heartbreak aside. She would do her duty as a nurse, even if it meant delivering the child. Tasha screamed through another contraction, her voice echoing off the sterile walls of the delivery room. Sweat beaded on her forehead, and her hair stuck to her damp skin. Nia worked swiftly, guiding the junior nurses to help Tasha manage the pain, checking vitals, and keeping a calm environment. Regardless of her personal turmoil, Nia's first priority was the mother and baby's well-being. Jordan stood awkwardly by Tasha's side, looking more shaken with each contraction. He glanced at Nia multiple times, as if silently begging her to step into the hallway so he could explain. But Nia refused to meet his gaze. She knew that if she let her guard down even for a moment, her professional veneer would crack, and her fury, confusion, and heartbreak might erupt uncontrollably. Tasha groaned, reaching out for someone's hand. Instinctively, Nia offered her palm. But Tasha clutched at Jordan instead, her knuckles turning white around his. Pain was scrawled across her face. Not just physical pain, but emotional confusion. She sensed a tension between Jordan and Nia, and it gnawed at her, though she couldn't fully comprehend the depth of the betrayal yet. One of the junior nurses, Kara, hurried in with updates from the obstetrician. "We're almost at full dilation. Carr reported. Dr. Jacobs is on her way. She asked you to prep the patient for delivery. Understood, Nia said coolly. She placed a reassuring hand on Tasha's shoulder. Hang in there, Tasha. You're doing great. Breathe through it. We'll help you every step of the way. Tasha blinked back tears, her breath coming in ragged gasps. It hurts so much, she whimpered. I know, Nia murmured, her voice gentle. But you're almost at the finish line. Another push or two, and you'll meet your baby. Jordan cleared his throat, attempting to sound helpful. You got this, Tasha. I'm right here. But his voice trembled. Nia could see the guilt etched into his features. She tried to block out the memory of how he used to encourage her in moments of stress, how he'd rub her back and tell her she was strong enough to handle anything. Now, hearing him use those same soothing tones on another woman felt like salt in a wound. A moment later, Dr. Jacob strode in, tying her surgical mask in place. She nodded at Nia. Let's begin. Tasha, I need you to focus and push when I say so. Nia, help me monitor the baby's heart rate. Nia moved to the fetal monitor, watching the line spike with each contraction. Everything seemed steady for now. She looked over at Tasha, who was biting down on her lip to stifle a scream. Despite her own emotional turmoil, Nia felt a surge of empathy. Childbirth was intense, vulnerable. No mother deserved this kind of added stress. Dr. Jacobs instructed, Okay, Tasha, on the count of 3, give me a big push. 1, 2, 3, push. Tasha bore down, face contorted in a mix of determination and agony. Jordan hovered, murmuring words of encouragement, but it was Nia's coaching that guided Tasha's breathing and technique. The entire room was awash in urgency, beeping monitors, hushed instructions, the sterile scent of disinfectant. After several grueling minutes, the air shifted. A tiny cry pierced the tension. Dr. Jacobs lifted a baby girl into the world, her newborn wail cutting through every other sound. Tasha's eyes welled with tears of relief and joy. Even Jordan looked momentarily overwhelmed, his cheeks streaked with silent tears. Nia's heart pounded. She was used to the emotional surge of birth, but this one felt different. She carefully wrapped the newborn in a soft blanket and brought her to Tasha's arms. You have a daughter, she announced gently, swallowing the lump in her throat. She's beautiful. Tasha cradled the baby, tears spilling down her face. Jordan, look, she breathed, marveling at the little miracle in her arms. Jordan stared, awestruck, as though the magnitude of fatherhood had suddenly become real. Despite the bittersweet scene, Nia knew she had to maintain composure. She cleared her throat and turned to Jordan. Congratulations, she said, forcing the word out. You're officially a father. Jordan's gaze flicked to her, shame mingling with gratitude. Nia, She cut him off, her tone icy but professional. We'll move Tasha to recovery soon. I'll make sure everything is set. Dr. Jacobs and the junior nurses busied themselves cleaning up, removing used instruments, and finalizing vital checks. Tasha looked blissfully focused on her newborn, not quite ready to confront the truth behind Nia and Jordan's connection. Nia quietly slipped from the room, her heart pounding against her ribcage. She needed air, space, anything to keep from breaking down in front of everyone. Jordan, desperate, followed her into the hallway. The overhead lights hummed, and the quiet hush of the hospital at night amplified every footstep. The moment they were alone, he reached out to grab her arm, but she stepped back. Nia, please, he pleaded, his voice cracking. I'm sorry. It just happened. It didn't mean anything. Her eyes flared with hurt. Didn't mean anything? She laughed, a hollow sound in the empty corridor. That woman you impregnated just delivered your child, Jordan, and you brought her to my hospital. Did you think I wouldn't find out? He raked a hand through his hair, looking panicked. I never wanted to hurt you. I just got caught up in something I couldn't back out of. His explanation sounded weak even to his own ears. Nia's lip trembled, but her anger burned hotter than her tears. We'll talk, but not now and not here. She glanced through the small window in the door, seeing Tasha cradling her newborn. They need you. Go be there for your family. He swallowed, tears brimming in his eyes. You're my family, too. She shook her head, her nails biting into her palms. Not anymore. Her voice quivered. She walked off, leaving Jordan standing alone in the hallway, torn between the new life he'd just brought into the world and the one he'd just shattered beyond repair. 2 days after the fraught delivery, the maternity ward buzzed with its usual blend of emotions: exhausted yet elated mothers, anxious relatives, and diligent staff. Nia roamed the corridors, checking on patients, answering nurses' questions, and guiding families through postpartum care. Her calm demeanor betrayed none of her inner turmoil. If her colleagues sensed her emotional state, they were professional enough not to pry. Tasha and her newborn daughter, named Alani, had been moved to a private recovery suite. True to Jordan's promise, Tasha was receiving top-tier care. She had no idea that the head nurse overseeing her stay was Jordan's wife, at least not until that shocking moment in the delivery room. Now, Tasha lay in bed, cradling Alani while staring at the softly glowing television. She'd had time to process the truth. Jordan had lied about his marital status, and she'd unwittingly become his mistress. The reality weighed on her, sapping the joy she should have been feeling. Jordan stood by the window, his phone buzzing incessantly with messages he chose to ignore. He glanced at Tasha and saw heartbreak mingling with her new mother exhaustion. "Tasha, I'm so sorry," he said, voice thick. "I never wanted you to find out like this." She closed her eyes, recalling all the moments she believed she was in a committed relationship with a divorced man. Tears threatened to overflow, but she kept her voice steady. "Jordan, why did you lie? You told me it was just us. You said you were free to start fresh. Did you think I wouldn't care that you're still married?" He sighed heavily, guilt etched on his face. "I was scared. Things with Nia weren't good, and I needed an escape. Meeting you felt like a chance at happiness." Tasha let out a bitter laugh. "So you decided to have 2 lives? One with your wife and one with me? That's not an escape, Jordan. That's cowardice." Her words hung in the sterile air, painfully true. A timid knock on the door interrupted them. Nia entered, holding a clipboard. She didn't look directly at Jordan, focusing instead on Tasha and the baby. "Tasha, I'm here to go over your discharge plan," she began, her voice professional. "Alani's vitals are good, and you seem to be recovering well. However, I want to make sure you have the support you need once you leave the hospital." Tasha's eyes flicked from Nia to Jordan. She swallowed, managing to say, "Thank you. I appreciate that." Jordan shifted uneasily, watching as Nia meticulously explained postpartum care, pediatric checkups, and lactation support. She kept her tone neutral, but each word seemed deliberate, as if she were carefully maintaining a fragile barrier between her personal pain and her professional duty. When Nia finished, Tasha cleared her throat. "Nia," she began softly, "I didn't know about you and him. If I had known, I wouldn't." Nia held up a hand, her composure intact. "You don't need to explain. You were misled. It's Jordan who owes the explanations." She glanced at him for half a second, then returned her attention to Tasha. "Right now, focus on your recovery and your baby." Tasha nodded, tears slipping down her cheeks. Jordan looked away, unable to meet anyone's gaze. Nia gave a succinct nod and stepped out, leaving behind an oppressive silence. Outside, she leaned against the wall, heart pounding. She found herself face-to-face with Kara, the junior nurse who'd assisted in the delivery. Concern flickered in Kara's eyes. "Nia, are you okay?" she asked gently. "We all heard rumors." Nia took a shaky breath. "I'm fine," she lied. "I just need a moment." Kara pursed her lips but said nothing more, respecting Nia's privacy. Nia forced herself to remain upright, shoulders squared, and walked briskly away from the maternity wing. She headed toward the rooftop terrace, one of her favorite refuge spots in the hospital, especially on nights when everything felt too heavy. She pushed open the door, letting the brisk air hit her face. The city skyline stretched out before her, a sea of lights twinkling in the evening gloom. She blinked back tears, thinking about the life she'd built with Jordan. How had it come to this? Infidelity was one thing, but dragging her into the middle of his lover's childbirth felt like the cruelest form of betrayal. A wave of humiliation washed over her, imagining the gossip that would inevitably spread among hospital staff. Her reputation, carefully built over years, now overshadowed by a scandal she never asked for. She pulled out her phone. The screen showed dozens of missed calls and texts from Jordan, all unanswered. Words like "forgive me," "we can fix this," and "it was a mistake" filled the message previews. Her eyes stung with unshed tears, but anger clamped down like a vice. She tapped the screen and started typing a single message to Jordan. "I'll be filing for divorce. Don't contact me unless it's about the paperwork." Before she could second-guess herself, she hit send. A sense of finality, cold and sharp, settled in her chest. She had always prided herself on handling crises calmly, yet she never imagined her biggest crisis would be so personal, so public, and so humiliating. She looked at the city lights, wondering how long it would take to heal from this. That night, after her shift ended, she went home to an apartment that felt suddenly foreign. The walls that once echoed with shared laughter now seemed to close in on her. She packed a small suitcase with essentials, deciding she couldn't sleep in that bed anymore. The memory of Jordan still clung to every pillow, every piece of decor, every framed photo. In the wee hours of the morning, she checked into a modest hotel across town. Ironically, she thought about the very receipt she'd found that had led her down this path. It felt surreal to be here, alone, betrayed, and preparing for the legal end of her marriage. Yet amid her sorrow, a flicker of resolve emerged. She thought of Tasha, also hurt and alone, caring for a newborn she conceived out of a lie. "We both deserve better," Nia whispered to the empty room, setting her phone on the nightstand as she tried to steel herself for the battle ahead. 3 weeks later, Nia found herself scrolling through a barrage of viral posts on social media. It all started when a junior nurse, likely Kara, shared a cryptic TikTok about a cheating husband who brought his pregnant side chick to the wife's hospital. The snippet was vague on names and exact details, but it didn't take long for online sleuths to start piecing the story together. The hospital's logo, glimpsed briefly in the background, became a major clue. Speculation exploded in the comment section, generating sympathy for the betrayed nurse and outrage at the audacity of the cheating spouse. At first, Nia felt mortified. Her most painful private drama had become fodder for countless strangers. Yet, as she read the flood of supportive messages, something shifted inside her. People were rallying around the nurse who'd handled a heart-wrenching betrayal with professionalism and dignity. They saw her as a hero of sorts, someone who faced heartbreak head-on and still put the patient first. Sitting in her new, smaller apartment, a cozy space she'd rented after serving Jordan with divorce papers, Nia exhaled a tense breath. She'd spent days replaying every argument in her mind, wondering if she'd missed signs earlier. But going down that mental rabbit hole only led to more pain. She decided instead to channel her energy into something productive. She began journaling at night, recording her journey of heartbreak, confusion, and ultimate resolve to move forward. One evening, her friend Janelle, a fellow head nurse at another hospital, visited with takeout. "You should share your story publicly," Janelle suggested between bites of fried rice. "People need to hear that it's possible to walk away from toxic situations without losing yourself." Nia sipped her water, considering. "I'm not really one to chase spotlight, Janelle." Janelle shrugged. "You don't need the spotlight, but your story could help someone else who's feeling trapped. I mean, look at how people responded to that TikTok." Eventually, Nia took a leap of faith. She started a small podcast series, anonymously at first, called Heal and Rise, where she shared personal insights about betrayal, emotional well-being, and self-empowerment. To her surprise, it gained traction quickly. Listeners tuned in, leaving comments like, "Thank you for sharing this. It gave me the courage to leave my own toxic relationship." Meanwhile, Tasha was navigating the challenging reality of single motherhood. She had moved into a friend's spare room while figuring out her next steps. Alani was a sweet baby, but the sleepless nights were grueling, and the emotional toll of Jordan's betrayal weighed heavily. Jordan had tried to keep in contact, offering financial support for the baby, but Tasha's trust in him was shattered. She found herself torn between letting Alani have a relationship with her father and shielding her daughter from further heartbreak. One day, Tasha mustered the courage to text Nia. She wrote, "I'm so sorry for everything. Could we meet? If that's too much to ask, I understand." She stared at her phone, half expecting no reply, but within an hour, she received a simple message back. "Let's do it. Coffee shop on 5th, tomorrow at 3 p.m. At the cafe the next afternoon." Tasha arrived early, bouncing Alani gently in a baby carrier. She sipped nervously at a latte, wondering what she'd say to the woman whose marriage she had unknowingly become entangled in. When Nia walked in, Tasha couldn't help noticing the changes. She looked composed, confident, with an aura of someone who'd been through a storm and come out stronger. Gone was the timid wife Tasha had glimpsed in that delivery room's chaos. "Hi," Tasha greeted, feeling her heart hammer. "Thank you for coming." Nia sat down, offering a polite nod. "It's fine. I'm glad you reached out." They paused, the air thick with unspoken tension. Alani cooed, drawing Nia's attention. "She's gotten bigger," Nia remarked softly. "Is she healthy?" Tasha nodded, relief flooding her expression. "Yes, she's doing well. Doctor says she's right on track." Silence stretched for a moment before Tasha spoke again, her voice trembling. "I want to apologize. Even though I didn't know Jordan was still married, I still feel guilty. You were blindsided." Nia exhaled, her gaze dropping to the table. But I don't blame you. I blame him." Tasha's eyes welled with tears. "I just hope someday you can forgive me or at least not resent me." Nia considered her response carefully. "I don't resent you. We were both lied to. We both got hurt. The only difference is I got out of it sooner. Now we have to move on, especially for Alani's sake." Tasha reached out with a trembling hand, and Nia gently took it. They shared a moment of connection, a mutual understanding that both had been deceived by the same man. "Thank you," Tasha whispered. "I want my daughter to grow up strong, loved, and not repeating these mistakes." Nia gave a small, reassuring smile. "Then we'll show her what real strength looks like." The meeting ended on a note of cautious optimism, a tentative truce forged in the aftermath of betrayal. When Nia stepped outside, she felt the crisp air and realized how light she felt for the first time in months. She'd survived the unthinkable. Her heart still ached, but was healing, mending with every step she took toward independence. On her walk home, she scrolled through her phone, noticing a spike in podcast subscribers. She also saw messages from colleagues praising her mentorship workshops. In the midst of chaos, she'd found a calling, using her voice to uplift others who'd faced lies and heartbreak. Later that night, as she recorded her next podcast episode, she ended with reflective thought. Sometimes, betrayal is a catalyst that forces us to rediscover our own worth. Don't let someone's deceit define you. Let it remind you of the strength you've had all along. She hit the stop button on her recorder, tears glistening in her eyes. In that final moment, she knew her life wasn't ending. It was beginning anew, a rebirth, shaped by pain but blossoming into courage. And that was a story worth telling the world. The end. Enjoyed this story? We invite you to give a like and subscribe to our channel. Your support motivates us to keep bringing more beautiful stories almost every day. We are very grateful for your effort. See you again.